Nidus is one of the oldest Warframes in the game, and D hasn't been giving him the love that he deserves, so that's why I'm here. Today I'm be giving you an extremely tanky build, semi-nuking and damage out the wazoo, alongside a little bit of a bonus rework maybe for DE to check out at the end. So if all of that sounds interesting, let's quickly get into the video. Ah yes, Nidus, I remember the day that he came out. He had one of the most coolest and unique features where his looks would actually evolve the more you played, and you fill up your passive meter up to 10 stacks and you are fully evolved, meaning that the deluxe skin and the fashion frame that you can see up on screen also changes. And with the deluxe skin, he looks 10 times better. He is ready to make a statement. You can see everything that I am using, the colors, the sandana, the attachments, and as I said, the deluxe skin as well. And you can see the evolution, and I love how his brain is just like fully on display. Also, what is on display, I guess, is the like and subscribe button, also the bell icon. So it would be greatly appreciated by me if you press that. I don't do this full time yet, maybe one day I will, but that is with your guys' help. So thank you for whoever presses that button, and comment down below on what Warframe should maybe get evolving aesthetics as well, because it is a really cool concept and no Warframe has it other than Nidus. With all of that jibber jabber out of the way, let's cover the passive itself. First of all, as we mentioned earlier, you have your mutation gauge at your bottom right hand corner. You fill this up with your abilities and you can reach a maximum of 100. His other passive is Undying. Undying will allow you to sacrifice 15 mutations stacks for you to avoid dying. You become invulnerable and you restore 50% of your HP. Now, if you don't have 15, you're just basically gonna consume everything and die, so keep that in mind. But there is something that we want to utilize on this Warframe, and that is the augment for our passive, the Abundant Mutation. This will increase your stacks up to 200, but it will give your Undying a cooldown of 30 seconds. Keeping in mind, it doesn't actually have a cooldown on its base, so you can pretty much die as long as you have 15 stacks. Now, you're gonna see why these 200 are gonna come in play. First of all, we want to cover the first ability, Virulence. You summon a path, or I guess a trail of infestation that attacks enemies, does puncture damage, and depending on how much enemies you hit, it is going to refund your energy depending on that. So you're always going to try to hit as many enemies as you possibly can. This is also your main way of gaining mutation stacks as well, and the damage of this ability scales incredibly well. Alongside the Teeming Virulence augment, you are going to get 2 birds with 1 stone. Here, with the Teeming Virulence augment, hitting 4 or more enemies will increase and give you a primary weapon critical chance. This is based on your ability strength, and you're pretty much going to be red critting with any decent primary, which I'll show later on in the video. But now we gotta move on to the second ability, Larva. Larva will basically drag in enemies, keeping in mind that you cannot recast it as long as there are enemies inside of lava. You can kill enemies if your damage is high enough with Virulence, or you can kill them with your weapons and then disperse Larva. Attacking enemies in Larva is going to be incredibly good because you're going to be building up your stacks really fast, considering you also have a 50% chance to gain additional mutation stacks when attacking these enemies. And the range on this is incredibly good. This is one of the best crowd controlling abilities in the game, and one of the best and tankiest abilities in the game is Parasitic Link. Parasitic Link is our third ability, and it will allow us to link ourselves to an enemy. The damage will get redirected to that enemy alongside the statuses, and you are immune to stagger and knockdown. Now, you can move around and you can go as far as your range will allow you until you get disconnected from your Parasitic Link target. Keeping in mind, line of sight does not matter. You can literally go through walls, or I guess the link can go through walls, and you're still going to get the damage reduction. All you need to keep in mind is the actual range. The damage reduction goes up to 90%, and as I said, you are immune to status effects, so you don't really need adaptation or to worry about them in any way. And the good thing about Parasitic Link, it does not require energy to actually cast. All you need is 1 mutation stack, so that's really cool because you can use it pretty much all of the time because you're always gonna have 1 mutation stack. One more great feature about our parasitic target is the synergy with our first ability. ability. When you use Virulence, your parasitic target will also use Virulence in the same direction you are, so that is going to be so good. The damage does scale with you, but it's not that incredible that you're actually going to see that big of a difference, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. And what makes this ability incredibly good is Parasitic Vitality. Now, when you put on Parasitic Vitality, you cannot use any other Vitality mod. This will give you and your ally 4% max health per mutation during your Parasitic Link, and a little bit afterwards when you are unlinked to the target. This is incredibly good. Because of our mutation stacks going up to 200% and our power strength being incredibly good, we are going to have massive amounts of health. But before we go to the actual build and the massive health, we want to cover his fourth ability. His fourth ability is called Ravenous. You will sacrifice 3 mutation stacks and summon a little field, sort of like Oberon's second ability, an area of infestation that will summon up to 8 maggots that will attack enemies. It says it applies toxin, but it doesn't actually apply toxin. We'll talk about that a little bit later in the fixed segment of the video. Nonetheless, these will detonate when you strike them with your Virulence, keeping that in mind, and they're going to explode, dealing blast damage as well and staggering enemies. The maggots are good, but the most important thing about this ability is the health regeneration. This will keep you alive alongside Parasitic Link, because Parasitic Link with the damage reduction, it's cool, it gives you everything, but this is going to give you the heal factor that you need to survive. And alongside the augment, you are going to be gaining those mutation stacks incredibly good. You already gained them through this ability, as with other abilities, but Nidus has a chance of gaining additional stacks while in infestation. The base 60% chance will increase with power strength, and multiple stacks are possible at 100%. What this means is even when you are at 100%, if you, for example, use your fourth ability again or any other ability that uses mutation stacks, you will basically instantaneously gain them back the moment you use them. Insatiable is incredibly good. This augment mod really does difference, and you'll see it in the build. Well, talking about the build, let's actually cover it. First of all, in the Aura slot, we have Growing Power. We also have Cunning Drift in the Exilus slot, Blind Rage, Teeming Virulence, Insatiable, Overextended, Parasitic Vitality, Ambient Mutation, Umbral Intensify, and Stretch. We have Molt Augmented and Arcane Balacore. With Arcane Balacore, you gain 6% ability strength for 250 health, a maximum of 75% additional power strength, which is insane, because with this, you are going to be able to reach health numbers up to 36,000 and even far beyond. That always is dependent on the enemy's level, so keep that in mind. And you might have saw there that we're not utilizing a fully leveled up overextended. That is a purposeful decision, just because I don't want my power strength to go down that much, and range is, well, not really that important. We already have enough of it. Alongside the build, the Warframe does need Archon Shards, and the Archon Shards of choice, we have 2 blue ones, one Tau Forged and one normal one, giving us a maximum of 125 energy. We have one red one, giving us 10% power strength, and a casting speed one, giving us 32.5% casting speed. Keeping in mind the casting speed on this Warframe doesn't influence exactly everything. For example, the summoning Virulence, it's not going to summon the actual path faster, it's just going to make you stomp faster, but the additional 32% casting speed does definitely help, so I highly recommend you use it. You can also put in another red Archon Shard, either power strength or power duration, depends on really which one you want more, but I left that slot empty just for you guys to decide, and I don't think you necessarily need it. Now, I did want to mention, we do have a second build. Now, this second build is not going to be changed out much. This build is primarily for people that don't want to use the Parasitic Vitality augment. This is what it looks like. I highly recommend you put at least one Umbral form on this Warframe. I do think it is worth it because of the changes that hopefully he will get in the future. But we have Umbral Vitality and Umbral Intensify here. That's basically just a combination, and that is the second build, I guess, if you don't want to use the Parasitic Vitality augment, considering you are pretty weak when you are not linked to a target, and you can die pretty fast. And now we have the focus school of choice. We have Madurai as always. We have Power Transfer. This is going to give you additional casting speed, and Sling Strength, which is going to give you additional power strength. Both of these incredibly good, and I highly recommend you utilize them at least a little bit in your gameplay, and they're also going to help you out when you're facing Void Cascade enemies. Now that we covered everything Warframe-wise, this Warframe needs some good weapons, and we have a couple here. One of the best weapons that you can pick for this Warframe is going to be the Nautaruk. The Notoric is one of the best free weapons. It is a quest weapon. I highly recommend you get it if you don't have it by now. This is the build up on screen, and this, with its infinite punch through on its perfect shot, is going to be so good when you are attacking those enemies inside of Larva, just because you have those insane red crits with your teaming Virulence augment. One of the other incredibly good bow weapons is the Dread Incarnate. This is my Dread build that we use. We also use the Unseen Dread augment, which is going to be incredibly good, giving us insane critical damage numbers. And the punch through on this weapon also incredibly good. Anything with punch through or a beam weapon that chains the enemies is going to be incredibly good. Talking about beam weapons, we have the Boar Prime Incarnate to be precise, and this is the build that we have up on screen. This weapon is good because of two features. First of all, its base form incredibly good at eliminating enemies, and your secondary form is extremely good at eliminating enemies. The turret is good, but when an acolyte appears, all you're left to is your first ability, and sometimes you can't use abilities. So we're gonna be moving on to the Burstin. This is my other recommendation, the Burstin Prime Incarnate. This is what the build looks like. I highly recommend you utilize Corrosive on these builds, as I am showing you up on screen, just because you're having viral through this means, so you're not really worrying about that much. Nonetheless, the Burstin Prime Incarnate doesn't have any punch through, but this weapon is incredibly good. I do wonder what other weapons are going to be pretty cool with this Warframe, so leave it in the comment section down below as well. I'm really interested in your thoughts. Secondary and melee weapon, you can use whatever you want. You're mostly going to be killing enemies with your first, combining with your fourth, your second, well, your abilities, I guess, and sometimes your primary. So your secondary and your melee are completely up to you. But the companion, I highly recommend this one, because this is going to give you nuking capabilities. Now, applying a lot of status effects with this Warframe is pretty much always guaranteed alongside the weapons, and utilizing the primer doggo that I have, or a hound, is going to be incredibly good. This is what the build looks like, but Synergized Prospectus is one of the most important mods, just because this companion is so good at priming enemies with the elements that you will see up on screen right now. These are the claws, as you can see them. We have a lot of statuses here, and Synergized Prospectus is going to launch an electric ball that's going to travel around, bounce around, and on occasion, this can proc so many status effects and powerful status effects at that point where it actually nukes enemies. You can actually see it. I'll leave a little demonstration in the background. So combined with everything else in the build that you see, this is going to be so good. Alongside, as I said, the Akaten with all those status effects, it is going to be so good. But how are you supposed to play Nidus? Nidus is quite an interesting Warframe, but what you need to do is try to gather up at least 4 or more enemies that you can use your Virulence on, because you're going to gain a decent amount of energy back. Then Parasitic Link to a target, considering it does not cost energy to actually use it, and then use Larva, drag in enemies, use Virulence, and then gain those beautiful stacks and just watch your health go up and up and up and up. Keeping in mind, I do want to know one thing. In Fisher missions, when you get the bonus to ability strength and also range, you can gain up to 60,000 health with this Warframe. So that is really fun. That's why you can see actually the gameplay and the background. But summon your fourth ability, Ravenous, and then stay inside of that for as much as you possibly can, but just make sure you're parasitic linked to a target. And that's basically it, and survive as much as you can. Summon your fourth, always keep it active, because when it disperses, it is going to explode and deal out the damage as well, and utilize your primary to kill those pesky enemies. Your companion is going to be nuking enemies off to the side somewhere, and that's pretty much it. If you have any other questions, I guess you can leave them in the comment section down below. But now, hello, it's me, your friendly neighborhood gaming weasel. Listen, I have a couple of things that I would like for Nidus to get. Now, these are not big things, and these are not precise things. And also, I would like to hear what you guys think that Nidus needs as well. First of all, more damage on his first at base. I know the damage does scale, but the damage doesn't seem comparable to other Warframes in the game that can pretty much nuke with 2 presses of a button. And this Warframe, first of all, needs to build it up, and then you're not even close to almost one-shotting the enemies. Sometimes, yes, of course, depending on the enemy's level, but this could be changed out. And just a tad bit of range. Larva, honestly, I think is completely fine. Parasitic Link damage should increase with his first, because as you know, with the Parasitic Link target, he also summons a teeming Virulence trail. And now the most important thing that I want to get covered is his fourth ability, Ravenous. We need more maggots, because we have, there's first of all, slow as hell. I have to say it like that, but they are. And there's 9 maggots, considering how many enemies there are in the game in Steel Path. This is not a big amount, and as I said, how slow they are. And they don't actually deal toxin damage. I did test it out in the simulacrum, you can see it up on screen right now. And yeah, this would be incredibly good because you could synchronize it with Archon Vitality and Archon Shards to actually armor strip enemies, and that would be pretty cool because then you don't necessarily need to increase the power of the Warframe, but all you need to do is just, well, do that little buff, and there you go. And just make proc more toxin, just not like one proc of toxin or something like that. Make it, you know, do something. But that's mostly it. I hope you guys enjoyed. This is quite a fun video to do, and I hope that DE one day sees that little fix and maybe takes something into consideration. I do hope you guys as well loved the build. I loved making it. I would be extremely happy if you guys leave a like, subscribe, a comment down below as well on everything that I mentioned in the video, and I will be back stronger than ever. This has been my longest hiatus up until now, and I am ready to come back. So this has been your lovely host, the Gaming Weasel, and I'll see you guys on the next one.